What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 23 for My Team Career Mode Season 2, Round number 3, the Miami Grand Prix. So racing at the Miami track for the first time in F1 23, raced here a couple of times in F1 22, never my favourite track in the world, to be completely honest, but yeah, it's alright to race on. It's definitely not one of the most exciting. From what I remember, we didn't have the most exciting races back in F1 22 either, so yeah, we'll just see how this one goes today. Putting some upgrades on the car, don't think these are going to come through until probably Imola, which is the race after this one. A couple of upgrades going on there. We're also going to put a build time and a quality control facility upgrade on to durability as well, just to, use up a bit of our money because we've got quite a lot spare at the moment. As we look at R&D, Aston Martin still up at the top with Mercedes behind. We are now, well, we're still in third. Ferrari have actually jumped now back up into fourth place, just ahead of Red Bull. Then you've got McLaren, Haas, and Alpine taking a little bit of a dip down, but still in that pack, kind of in the, what I would, I guess, consider the mid pack now, probably. You've kind of got Aston Martin, myself. Well, I don't know, it's a bit weirdly spaced at the moment, after season 1 where we had such close R&D. It is still pretty close this season, but it is a little bit more kind of sporadic. You don't really have the front group, the middle group, and the back group. It's all a little more spread out. Anyway, into Q1 here, and yeah, this lap going pretty well, I guess. A lot of straights on this track, and yeah, need a good engine for this track, so of course we do have a very good engine. We ended up P10 in Q1. Yuki Tsunoda ended up P7, so our teammate there, no surprises out in Q1. Both Hasses, I think Sargent, De Vries, so both AlphaTauris, and I believe one of the Alfa Romeos of Zhou Guan Yu as well. Q2 came around and it was rather wet, as you can see here. The forecast did say that there was going to be rain towards the end of qualifying. I was expecting it to probably be a wet Q3, but it was a wet Q2 and pretty wet as well. It was intermediate tyres at this point in time, come the end of the session, and it would be full wet conditions, which, yeah, which meant that the first lap time I did in Q2 had to be the lap time that counted, and that was the same for everybody else because the track would be slower on the wet compound tyres. So yeah, this lap here was fairly decent. It was an alright lap time, not the best, struggling a little bit in these conditions. I put a couple more degrees of front wing on the car. We ended up actually going P2, so it was a very good lap in the end. But the big shocks here, to be honest, all 5-6 drivers out in Q2 are a bit of a shock. Russell's out, Tsunoda's out, Alonso's out with his teammate Lance Stroll, Perez is out, and Leclerc is out again. He hasn't made it. The defending world champion has not made it into Q3 at all this season, which is just absolutely crazy to think about. So a lot of drivers out in Q2 that I didn't expect to be out, and a couple in that I didn't expect. Both McLarens have made it through. I think both Alpines made it through as well, but the big surprises had to be Alexander Albon in the Williams and Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. They both made it into Q3, so very exciting there to see what they can do. As you can see, Q3 lap here, the track was starting to dry. The rain pretty much stopped by this point, but or is at least, no, I think by this point it has stopped, and we're just kind of waiting for the track to dry out, but it wouldn't dry out quickly enough. This is right at the end of the session. I tried to go out as late as possible to, give myself the best time. You can see how far up though. I think we're about 6/10, maybe now 7/10 up on my previous best time. That's just showing how much the track is drying out and improving at the end of this session as we come through the very tricky section as the checkered flag is waved. Now onto the back straight. I do struggle quite a bit getting a good run out of this corner, and as we head down the back straight here, it's a purple middle sector. Very, very good middle sector for us right there, and DRS actually gets enabled as we head down the back straight, so we are going to get a dose of DRS that I don't think anybody else, well no, nobody else would have had this, so maybe this could be this could be pole position here because we've had that extra little dose of DRS there. As we head around the next corner, we'll get DRS here as well, but I actually forget to activate it. It's not going to matter anyway. I don't think that would have really affected anything because it's a very short zone. We ended up P3 though. We couldn't quite get pole position. I guess we just weren't quite quick enough through, well, really sector 1 because we were purple through sector 2. And Lewis Hamilton gets another pole position. It's Max Verstappen on the front row alongside him, so that could be exciting for the race. We're in third with Gasly fourth and Ocon fifth in the Alpine, so good result from them. Let's see what the race holds.
We're here in the coastal shores of Florida for the Miami Grand Prix, which has become the 11th Formula One track held in the United States. The grandstands are packed for what we hope is going to be another fantastic race. A lap of the Miami Grand Prix features 3.36 miles of track around the Hard Rock Stadium, and 19 corners make up the Miami International Autodrome, which will challenge the drivers in a tight wheel-to-wheel race. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Davies, Gasly, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Bottas, Albon, Norris, Sainz, Stroll, Perez, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Tsunoda, Joe, Magnussen, Liam Lawson, Doohan, De Vries, Russell, and Logan Sargent. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson.
And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race.
Let's discuss Red Bull. There have been some tweaks to the power unit regulations, of course, and I have to say it doesn't seem, so far at least, that they've been able to keep up.
There are a few downcast looks within the team this weekend. I think they've been hit fairly hard by the new regs. But this is only the first step down a long road of development, and even if they don't maximise their points today, there are plenty more up for grabs this season.
Alright, so with a little bit of a glitch in the commentary there as Alex Jakes starts talking after David Croft, a little bit weird, bit of a glitch there. We are lights out in Miami, it's dry for the race. We get a pretty good start alongside Max Verstappen, and we're actually going to try and fight him into turn 1 here. We're getting a bit of a message from our engineer here telling us that our ICE, internal combustion engine, is getting a bit of wear. Verstappen manages to just about stay ahead of us, and actually we're coming under fire from Oscar Piastri, who had a blistering start from P6 on the grid. We are just about going to stay ahead of him though, but yeah, we've now lost out to Verstappen after a very good run. Just very tricky going side by side, being on the outside through turn 1 and turn 2. So yeah, although it was a good start for us, there wasn't really a whole lot we could do. But now we are really having to defend from Piastri here, using a lot of battery as we head down this back straight. Piastri is all over the back of us here, but we're just going to place our car well and defend the position. Head into the next corner. Hamilton is just up in the lead, and he's got a very good start here, has I think almost already got a second margin on Verstappen. So a very good start from Hamilton, who currently leads the championship after his win last time out in China. As there are yellow flags behind us, not sure 100% what that is for, but we head down the main straight once, well, for the first time in the race here. And you can see our good straight line speed means we're actually pulling away from Piastri a little bit now, starting to reel Verstappen back in at the front. And we just continue around this final corner to finish off our first racing lap in Miami. Hamilton crosses the line, and we had a purple final sector there, and it was a good first lap for us all in the end. Oscar Piastri, like I said, had an amazing start. He got ahead of both the Alpines into turn 1, was then looking at myself and Verstappen battle through turn 1 and 2. And as we ran a little bit wide through turn 3, he just sniffed an opportunity. We were there on the inside. He tried to hang it around the outside into the next corner, but couldn't quite do anything and had to just kind of fall back in line. But it was a very good start from the Australian. As further back, this is Carlos Sainz trying to make a move on Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, who started P7 or 8, I can't remember which one it was. Him and Albon were on the 4th row of the grid, and yeah, in the end, Sainz I think does just about get past. We continue on here, and yeah, not really a lot we can do at the moment. Hamilton set the fastest lap up ahead, and he's kind of streaming off a little bit away from Verstappen as well. Now on R&D on paper, we do technically have a quicker car than the Red Bull, but we're not the best in this track. There's yellow flags up ahead though. Is that Hamilton or Verstappen that has a problem? It looks like it might be Verstappen as he's going slow, and we get a face full of smoke from the Red Bull, and that is Max Verstappen from P2 in this race, out of the Miami Grand Prix with an engine failure. Very unfortunate for him. He was looking for his first podium of the season, but that has now put us up into P2, so it is good news for us, not so good news for Verstappen, as Alexander Albon and Valtteri Bottas are still fighting here, still I believe in the top 10, having a good little battle, but towards the back end of that top 10, and Albon trying to get past, and he's gotten past Bottas. Now Bottas is under fire from one of the Aston Martins. I'm not sure who that is. I think that will be Lance Stroll, who's got past Bottas and is now side by side with Albon in the Aston Martins, which, let's remember, is apparently the quickest car on the grid if we're talking about R&D here, as Fernando Alonso is also making moves. He is now trying to get past Valtteri Bottas, and they're going side by side round this next corner into sector 2, and Alonso's just about managed to get ahead of Bottas there. Tsunoda now the next car to have a look at Bottas. He is unfortunately falling down the grid in that Alfa Romeo. It is the second worst car on the grid, so yeah, although we had a great qualifying, wasn't always going to be a good shout for points in this race. As still further back once again, just behind us, we've got one of the, is that Lando Norris, I believe, battling with Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, and Norris gets himself past the French driver and up another position. He did not have a very good qualifying, qualified P9, out-qualified by Piastri for, I believe, the second time this season. So, yeah, he's looking to make moves. The two Aston Martins, like I said, quickest cars on paper here. Alonso, though, trying to get past his teammate of Stroll, and is sniffing up a sneaky opportunity here into the tricky final sector, and he gets a move done. Very nice move from Fernando Alonso. Maybe Stroll, his teammate, didn't fight that one too hard, but yeah, Alonso will be making his way through the order in what is supposedly the quickest car on the grid. But yeah, qualifying really not gone the way of Fernando Alonso this season. As we continue on here, and I'll be honest, there wasn't a lot happening. By lap 6 or 7, I started to get into the groove. I really wasn't feeling it at the start of the race, but once I kind of got into the groove, I was doing a pretty good job. I was somewhat keeping with Hamilton. I was keeping the gap somewhat similar, and I was starting to pull away from the cars behind, but yeah, ultimately just didn't really have the best pace here, and it was a very lonely race, at least at the start here, as Pierre Gasly is now going for a move on Piastri for what is now P3, with Verstappen out of the race and I was up into P2. This is now the battle for P3 between Gasly and the Alpine and both McLarens, because Lando Norris has also put his car in this fight as well. As Piastri goes to the inside, Norris is on the outside. Norris just kind of has to wait back there a little bit, as Piastri once again can't quite make a move on Gasly at the moment, but will be looking to get back past the Frenchman. As lap number 12 comes around, we come into the pits. It's been a very boring and quiet race so far for us. We're in the pits the same time as Hamilton, onto a set of medium yellow walled compound tyres. And yeah, back out onto the track we go. It was a good pit stop by the team, and as we head through the pits down into turn 2 and into turn 3, we just about come out ahead of Zhou Guanyu. So a good pit stop from the team, decent amount of fresh air, clean air in front of us to Perez, who hasn't pitched yet. As this battle at the front, for the podium, continues on again, Norris went into the pits one lap earlier as he makes contact with Gasly as Gasly comes out of the pits here. Gasly and Piastri went in the pits one lap later than Norris. Norris has got the undercut on his teammate, and he's now looking at the move on Gasly as well, and he's got that move done. So that is now Lando Norris up into P3 in this race. So great work from him and the team to get that strategy going. But Gasly is coming back. The McLaren is supposedly the quicker car on paper, but I mean, they are right on top of each other. It is very close between these two teams. We've seen that quite a lot in this career mode last season especially. But Gasly does just about manage to get back past Norris again, but Norris will now have the the aid of DRS down this big long back straight here. It is a very long back straight, a big DRS zone as well. And sure enough, Norris opens up the rear wing, goes to the outside because Gasly defends harshly to the inside, will try and outbrake him into this final corner, but Norris will just try and stay on the outside here. Piastri's still there in the background too. You've got Ferraris also coming for these guys as well, as yeah, Norris just about manages to stay ahead, and Gasly actually having to look in his mirrors for Piastri now, as Yuki Tsunoda is making his way through the order right now. No, sorry, is this me or is this Tsunoda? I can't even remember, but I think that might be me actually. Making a move on, I believe that was Bottas, was it? I can't even remember. One of the Alfa Romeos I am now ahead of. Now this is Yuki Tsunoda. He's at the front of a train, which Charles Leclerc is the car behind him, who's going for a move into, well, off the back straight. It's not the final corner, but one of the final corners here. And Leclerc has got that move stuck. So he's now, I believe, up into the points, or at least very, very close to it. And Tsunoda's right on the edge as well. As Fernando Alonso still making moves in this race, he's now got the two McLarens ahead of him, so he's now potentially fighting for a podium here. He's around the outside of Piastri, and has gotten that move done, and will probably look at Norris next lap around, or maybe even going onto the back straight here, because Alonso has some pace in this car. We know that it is a quick car, and sure enough, this lap around down the back straight with DRS, Norris does not have DRS from Gasly up ahead, who's kind of broken away a little bit, and Fernando Alonso gets himself up into P4 with Gasly in P3. The two McLarens still fighting here, as Piastri now trying to get back past his teammate once again. Seems like he's got a little bit more pace here. Couldn't quite do it off the back straight, but will now have a good run down into turn one, and will go to the inside, will fight his teammate. Norris really does try and fight this one, but Piastri gets back past ahead of his teammate once again. So yeah, good work from the Australian to get back up ahead of his teammates. We're really having a boring race. I was keeping the gap to Hamilton at about 8 seconds. Every now and again we'd lose a couple of tenths, then we'd gain a couple of tenths. I think I got down to about 7.4 at one point, but then the gap grew back up to like 8 seconds again. So yeah, could not make the headway on Hamilton at all. He just had the pace in this race, and granted he does on paper have the quicker car anyway, but we were managing to just about pull away from Gasly and the cars behind. But if Alonso could get past Gasly, that might be difficult for us, because that Aston Martin is quick. And sure enough, lap number 24 of, what is this, 28 or 29 lap race, I can't quite remember, and it's difficult to see up in the top left corner there, Alonso's going for the move on Gasly at his old team. Gasly is the driver who took Alonso's seat at Alpine, but Fernando Alonso is showing Alpine and Gasly that he made the right move, and he gets himself up now into P3. So what a recovery this has been from Fernando Alonso, from about P16 to P3 in this race. What a recovery drive this has been. And then further back again, you've got Esteban Ocon and Yuki Tsunoda, my teammate, fighting. Ocon manages to get, I believe, ahead of Tsunoda, but then Tsunoda's going to come back at him into turn one right now. They're going to go side by side through turn one. Tsunoda trying to hold on for, I believe this would be a points finish right now. So this is kind of the final points position, but Ocon can hold on just about. Final lap of the race, and yeah, you didn't see a whole lot from us this race, because honestly nothing was happening. It was definitely the weakest race of this season so far. We have had two pretty banger races though, but in the end we're going to come home for a very good P2, so it's a great result. P2 behind Lewis Hamilton, who at the moment seems to be our biggest championship rival. So it's another podium for us. Just not a particularly exciting race, unfortunately, but after two bangers, I guess it was always going to happen.
They've done it then. A truly magnificent win here at the Miami International Autodrome. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, tyre management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
Well, Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So there we go, Lewis Hamilton wins the first Miami Grand Prix in F1 23. We come home for P2, and Fernando Alonso, a brilliant drive from him from, P15 or P16 to P3 in this race, just showing that Aston Martin does at least have some very good race pace. I think Hamilton still got fastest lap, or maybe, actually no, I think in the end it might have been Leclerc. We should see that in a second. But yeah, still some great pace from Alonso, but some great pace from Hamilton as well. We just didn't quite have the consistency. Sorry, it was George Russell in the end who had the fastest lap, so he comes through for P7. Big recovery from him, from 21st on the grid after a grid penalty. De Vries got disqualified. I had a look. I forgot to have a look in the replays, but it ended up saying something about he drove the wrong way on the track or something, so I don't know what went on there. Hamilton extends his lead in the championship over us now to 12 points, and Gasly's back up in third, so Pierre Gasly still hanging on to the top 3 positions with, I believe, P4 in this race, so another very good result from him and Alpine. Alonso is up there in 5th after 2 back-to-back P3 podium finishes, and Mercedes extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship over us. Alpine 3rd, Aston Martin now in 4th, and Red Bull and Ferrari gaining a few points this race, but not a whole lot. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.